Oh, we got you guys looking at the wrong screen here. There we go. Guys, you know I always start the show off by showing love to those companies who help make this podcast possible. I'm going to start the show off, guys. The HVAC Uncensored Podcast is brought to you by CompanyCam. CompanyCam, the only app that every HVAC company needs. CompanyCam makes it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with your technicians no matter where you are. CompanyCam brings documentation, communication, and liability protection together in one simple, easy-to-use app for you and your entire team. Take unlimited photos and videos, share custom reports, create flawless before and afters, and even communicate and share progress with property owners with galleries and project timelines, all from your smartphone. Guys, CompanyCam is the only app every HVAC company needs. Every one of you goes through there. You're trying to find a picture of your kids. You're looking, you can't find it. You're going through all these furnaces and ACs and model numbers. Those pictures should be somewhere else. Your personal stuff and your work picture should be in two different places. CompanyCam is that, and it does so much more. The more we use this, the more I learn about it. CompanyCam is truly amazing. It really makes all those pictures and that documentation stuff to make it more presentable to your customers, more professional. It sets the bar and nobody is even close to them. So guys, if you go over to companycam.com //HVAC Uncensored, you get a free 14-day trial. Free. No credit card, no nothing. It's absolutely free for 14 days. If you like it after the 14 days, they will give you 50% off your first 2 months. So go try it. 14 days, risk-free. You don't like it? Hey, you tried it. I know you'll like it, but if you don't, you don't. And then after that, you get 50% off your first 2 months. Next, real fast, is going to be my rock solid that's been with me since day one, since 2018 when this podcast started, is my friends over at Yellow Jacket. As most of you know, I'm a second generation HVAC tech, 20 plus years in the trade, but I always look back to those days working with my dad that I cherish so much. My dad always said your tools are an extension of yourself. If you buy quality tools, you only have to buy them once. If you take care of them, they'll take care of you. Most of the time, you only have to buy them once. Well, that brand I think back to is Yellow Jacket. They've been making quality tools for 70 years and counting, making them right here in the US of A. If you're looking for quality tools you can depend on to get the job done, look no further than Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket has been trusted by my family for generations now, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Remember, 70 years of expertise built into every tool. Got to read them all tonight, so let's pay the bills. Keep going here. Chirp, guys, automation in the trade. So this is for all my business owner friends out there. There are so many things. We have to be in communication with our customers. It has to be professional. We have to be consistent. And all those little things like Angie's List and Home Advisor. And I know they're a pain. You got to be the first person to call them. You got to make sure that you're sitting in there answering your phone. It's very, very hard to do. Well, guess what? Chirp can do this for you. You can automate that. All right. We've been using this and it is amazing. Ryan, you know, the owner of our company, everybody thinks, oh man, Ryan texts me. That's so awesome. The owner texts people because it's so real. It doesn't come through like one of those fake BS texts that you know is not real and you just want to text stop to. It comes through authentic. It's real. They send text messages, ringless voicemails, emails, and you can set up so many different kinds of campaigns to do so many different things. Guys, Chirp is a game changer. I promise you. I don't care if you have one guy in a truck, you have 30 guys in a truck. Chirp is a game changer, and you need to check it out. My friends over at Chirp, if you go to www.chirp.com /HVAC Uncensored, they will give you 50% off your first 3 months. Okay? So go check out my friends over at Chirp. Last but not least, so we can hurry up and get to the show tonight, is going to be my friends over at Bluon. If you saw the podcast last night, Bluon Tech Support, I absolutely love what Bluon is doing. I love the people over there. I love everything about them. Guys, Bluon, we all know, is one of the newest sponsors of the podcast. Bluon is a perfect sponsor, as we are all about the same thing, empowering HVAC techs to be better and have better lives. We all know Bluon for having the best app to get us manuals and info when we need it and having the best tech support out there. Now, Bluon has taken it up a notch, giving you access to exact part list and part numbers for 300,000+ model numbers, and then letting you order those parts directly from your local supply house. You guys are not going to believe how awesome this is. Bluon has done all the research for your supply house. All you need to do is find the right model number, and Bluon takes care of the rest. You can even send requests to suppliers who don't carry the brand you are working on, because Bluon gives that supply house the cross-reference info and options so they can get you a 100% compatible part that they carry. How cool is that, man? Bluon just keeps raising the bar on how they support techs in the field, and as we all know, Bluon is 100% free for techs forever. But what you didn't know is when you order parts from your local supply house using Bluon, they get paid a small fee. This is how Bluon can keep giving all of us the amazing free support. You get the Bluon app you get to support Bluon by making the choice that only you can make to order parts on Bluon. It will save you tons of time, frustration, and you will never get the wrong part again, and you will contribute to the Bluon community, which is here to serve technicians. It is freaking awesome. Go down the Bluon app. Go download the Bluon app. There's no reason why you shouldn't. All right, man. That's enough. Whew. All right, we paid the bills. It's time to get on with the show. Let's knock out the pledge. Got an amazing guest for you guys tonight, an amazing topic, indoor air quality, something that a lot of us are unsure about. Well, we're going to get the answer to those questions tonight. So let's get the pledge. Let's rock and freaking roll. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States. And thank you to all those men and women who defend it.
Five, four, three, two, one, go.
Welcome to the #1 rated HVAC podcast. If you're looking to grow in the HVAC industry, then you're in the right spot. Blue-collar people talking about blue-collar shit. Let's get better together. So turn up the volume, buckle your seatbelt, and let's welcome your host, Gil KV Jr.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. I am your host, Gil KV Jr. Another Wednesday, another show. Guys, a great show for you tonight. Something that's been a huge topic that we've always talked about has been IAQ, indoor air quality. We always talk about what products should we offer our customers. Are we selling them the right ones? Do these products even work? And guys, tonight I have an expert in this field that's going to talk to us about some different things and really help give us his opinion on what really works, what really doesn't, and really just educate us on indoor air quality so that we know that we're really helping our customers. Because ever since COVID came about, this has been huge. More customers are asking us questions, and this way we know what the hell we're talking about. So guys, please put your hands together and help me introduce Mr. Ray Wu, CEO of WYND Technologies. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm honored to be here, Gil.
Oh,
nice to
thank
meet you and the whole audience here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. So like I told you when we talked yesterday, I think this is such a great topic because it's something that we have to deal with in our field, but most guys, this isn't what their expertise. You know, it's something that, if a customer asked about it, just give them this product or just tell them we sell this and it costs this much. But we don't know if we're offering the right thing, if that thing even works, or what technologies do work. So I really think that as an industry, we need to be educated. But I guess before we get into that, if you want to go ahead and let the audience know a little bit about you and WYND and what you guys do and a little bit about your background.
Sure, yeah. So my background is I'm the CEO and co-founder of this technology company based out in the Bay Area called WYND. we focus on indoor air quality. We started because this is something that's a topic that I think is really pertinent to a lot of people. But for me personally, having a lot of relatives who suffered from everything from allergies to being adjacent to very polluted places, it was something that I wanted to work on as part of my life's work. And so we've been at this for 7-8 years. Happy to talk about everything that we learned in this time. And obviously with COVID, I think it's really increased awareness, like you said. Right. It doesn't matter if the sky outside is blue and air outside is clean. Air quality is something that is actually essential for us to basically return to normalcy in our mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely is. So what are some, I know like most of the stuff you guys do, it's going to be like in bigger applications though, correct? Like hotels, stuff like that is stuff that you guys are doing for like the residential, like the homes and stuff like that, or is it for bigger like commercial places?
We do both, and happy to talk about our learnings from both the 50,000 residential homes in the United States that we're in, as well as commercial environments. We're in retail, hotels, schools, office buildings. I think the nature of air is we all have to breathe 20,000 breaths no matter where we are. It could be laden with disease. It could have pollutants. It could also have the air could also be indicative of property risk issues. And I think our view from the very beginning is because air is invisible, and a lot of these issues are very subtle. You can't really detect it with our human senses. By not being able to understand what's there, people might not take the right actions, right? And it's both a challenge as well as a massive opportunity, we think, for the HVAC industry.
Yeah, no, it's for sure, because it's something that whether you're doing, residential, commercial, industrial, it doesn't matter. We're in that space already. And normally we're the one getting asked those questions. So I feel like it's kind of like ductwork is kind of a trade within the HVAC trade. And then when it comes to indoor air quality, it's the same way. We need to be educated on this so that when customers ask us, that we're not just giving them these BS, generalized answers, that we actually know what we're talking about. Because like I told you, I am very interested in IAQ, that I try to do things for my house, but I try to, I'm doing what I think is right, not what I know is right. So I guess indoor air quality, let's start, because most of the people that are going to be here is probably going to be more residential techs than commercial, but I guess we can go back and forth. How should we be attacking this in someone's home? Like how can we really achieve better air quality inside of a home?
So so you asked really, really great questions, and maybe we can take a step back. So why is indoor air quality important? We take 20,000 breaths a day. The air has a direct correlation with long-term health, with short-term health. Long-term health, there's a lot of studies that show, if you're breathing polluted air, that can have issues with your lungs, with heart disease, with even cancer. If there's pollutants like PM 2.5 from smog, short-term health could be getting sick, right? If you are in an environment, and that could be your house, that could be in a shared space in a commercial environment, and there's somebody who has COVID, there are studies that have shown that, for instance, 70 to 80% of that disease is spread via the air, just like influenza, just like a lot of other viral diseases, right? So keeping the air healthy is actually pretty essential for your health, for your productivity, for your rest. The other thing is, I wanted to talk a little bit also about the importance of air as it relates to just overall operations of, a built environment, right? 40 to 50% of your entire energy bill is related to that HVAC system, moving air around, ventilating, heating, cooling it. And I guess it goes back to, if you don't really know what it is, like what the actual state of the air is, people are really just kind of blindly, in some ways, operating their lives and maybe even their systems, right? One of the very major thermostat companies, if you go to a Best Buy and you look up, the instructions for what auto mode means, I did this a year ago. It literally will say that auto mode means it randomly cycles the fan 30% of the time. right? And so our getting to the point, our view is you can't improve what you can't measure, right? And so the first thing, like you were asking me what I would recommend, is to help the customer understand, and from that make improvements. And that's where it could be products, it could be services, it could be better automation, right? So that they can be healthy, so that they can have less property risk, right? So that they can be more productive or have a more restful sleep in their bedroom, right? So I know that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of the first step that I would recommend. And we can talk about remediation solutions and all that sort as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, if I miss over, please, by all means, I want to make sure we don't miss anything. So I guess I keep jumping into my mind when we go to, like my house. We have these, you hear, these ionizing particles, these UV lights that use, particle ionization to clean the air. And, and then people say, you have two sides. Some people say, oh, it does good. Then some people say it gives off ozone. It does more harm than it does good. And I don't know. So that's why I love to ask these questions, because I don't know what I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when it comes to cleaning the air, there's broadly speaking 3 different types. You can ventilate, which is just diluting the air, right? That's when people recommend, hey, if you're going outside, it's a little bit safer, right? Because every time you're breathing, it's getting diluted by just outside air, right? And you can do that in a home too, or in a built environment, right? In fact, a lot of buildings have switched to using outside air when they were using previously 100% recycled air, right? They're introducing more ventilation. That's number one. That does work. It could be energy intensive, especially if to heat or cool it, right? The second way is filtration, and all HVAC systems have that filter. There's been upgrades from MERV 8 to MERV 13, which will capture, more of the smaller particles, including germs. One of the things that I'm sure your audience knows is a lot of homeowners might not be changing their filters at the right frequency, yeah. Right? And at some point that actually doesn't perform as expected. In fact, could actually cause a lot of pollutants to just basically off gas / fly off of that filter. So having a way, and this goes back to like knowing, right? Like having that data to understand, is it actually doing its job? If not, then what kind of products or services can be offered to that customer to improve their lives, right? And that's kind of what we're in the business of doing. The last type, outside of ventilation and filtration, I would put a bunch of different stuff in there, like what you were saying. There's bipolar ionization. There's using photocatalytic oxidation, which is essentially a very technical way of saying shining UV light on a piece of metal and causing a lot of these radicals to kind of chemically come out of the air and kill things, right? Our view is that the science around some of this does work in a specific type of lab environment, but oftentimes when it's applied to, let's say, a house or a whole building, it doesn't work very well. And the reason why is the air just moves way too fast. If you just take UV light and you shine it on like a surface, it will kill germs and it will even disinfect air. But if you have a fast moving column of air going through a duct and the radiation time is less than a fraction of a second, it doesn't do anything. Yeah. It might give a nice placebo effect to people. I would say, for companies that do that, ask them for real tests in real environments, like not in a box in a laboratory, but in a whole classroom or a whole house, right? That's where I think ventilation and basic filtration actually have proven themselves over and over again.
Well, that's good, because that's I'm on the same page, because that's what I always try to do. It's not just one item, because I do a lot of, ERVs, HRVs. So the energy recovery ventilators, the heat recovery ventilators, whether it's commercial or residential. I believe in, I don't do a lot of the electronic air cleaners just because they're astronomically expensive. I do a lot of like 5-inch media filters. So it's a bigger surface area. The customer doesn't have to change it much. as much, but it catches all those smaller particles, and then trying to put some kind of, UV light on it, a Remy Halo or something like that. Because I agree, the UV lights, like I put them on to like clean the customer's coil. Like if it's an A coil, I'll put it in the center because it keeps any growth from happening, because that light's only going to kill what it's touching. And what you said is, I'm glad, because that's what I always thought too, is the velocity of the air is passing by it so fast that it's not really, it's keeping that coil from stuff growing, but it's not really cleaning the air. But that's what they say about these other things like the Remy Halos, that it emits off like ions or particles that go through the air. And do I know how that technology works to a T? No. Do I think that has helped in my home since having it? Yes. I know odors have went, as far as, people getting sick, the smell of candles, people don't realize, with the air quality inside of your house, what, candles and different scents and sprays do in that whole cycle. When you're putting these pollutants inside of your house, they don't ever go anywhere, especially newer houses being built so tight that you don't have that leaky outside air. Somebody in the comments said, where did it go? Something about bringing in outside air. He said, yes, unless the outside air is dirtier than the inside air. That is probably almost never, ever going to be the case. Correct.
Except in California when we have these massive wildfires and the sky is red. But yeah, the United States is luckily we live in a very fortunate country where the air outside is generally really clean. But you're absolutely right. Inside the house or inside any built environment, it can trap these pollutants because not everyone is going to open their window or have an ERV at the roof, and pulling in outside air. The houses are designed to be a lot more sealed for sustainability, to save energy. But if you don't proactively do something to bring in outside air, you're going to have more pollutants that are concentrating inside, right? In fact, this has been cited a lot, and the HVAC pros in this audience and technicians can use it for marketing, but indoor air quality can be 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, precisely because it just concentrates inside without, unless you proactively do something to ventilate or clean it.
Yeah, and plus people don't realize that, 90, I would say probably, well, it depends on how somebody works, but even now with people working from home, so majority of the air that you're breathing all day is inside of your home. Most people spend more time in their home than somewhere else. Yeah.
We really think this is that next wave, and it's been obviously accelerated by COVID. But you see all these, this movement of a lot of people and to be healthy, and they drink, all these different types of healthier beverages, and they're eating, healthy food, let's call it, organic, and all that whole movement. But, people are starting to talk about air now. We really think, and I think this is great for their health. It's always been an important thing, but people sort of just took it for granted, and I think now it is I think it's about time, right, for this whole industry to be able to cater to something that they now perceive as having an immense amount of value and impact to their lives.
Yeah. Sorry, reacting to some of the comments in the chat here. So Mr. T-Tech said, I have some customers who live next to greasy restaurants where the exhaust grease blows past their house and over. Yeah, so that's going to be very few and far between. And unless that grease is literally blowing through their window, Ray's the expert. I'll let him answer it. But most of those pollutants they're gonna rise as it goes up. They're going to get diluted as they come outside. I don't think that's going to make as much of a difference as it's going to do as much as he thinks it does.
I think this is where I just kind of go back to that whole theme, right? I think, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even a decade ago, having sensors that measure air quality, it was expensive. And it's very manual. You have to buy this machine. Sometimes it costs $10,000 and you measure something and it doesn't really tell you much of a story. It says it's dusty in your house, right? Or there's maybe there's a mold testing which basically sucks in air for 24 hours and then you send it to a lab, right? All of this is expensive and somewhat inaccessible. I think what is happening now, and I think it's great for the industry, is tools are available to help people diagnose in a much cheaper way and doing it continuously. And that example that you mentioned about the restaurant, like maybe it's good, maybe it's really bad. Maybe there's a lot of particles from cooking because you're basically burning stuff, right? How do you know? Well, monitors and things like that exist, but it's not just about like seeing is it good or bad. I think if we can turn that as an industry, and this is something that WYND is trying to do as well, if we can turn that data of good or bad and why into, well, here's what you need to do, right? To make the customer, whether it's the homeowner, the school office, or the school building facility manager or the superintendent, make them realize, look, I need to bring in technicians. I need to upgrade the system. I need to add that ERV or change my filter or add some other type of product or service, right? With that data, you can catalyze this type of transaction, right? Whereas before, it's a little bit where the buyer and the seller of air, they don't necessarily have a reason to talk unless there's something evidently wrong. Yeah. Right. Like I'm actually replacing the HVAC in my house. But I know because it's just not cooling. Like there's no more refrigerant in there. And that was too obvious to me, right? In the summers of California. But oftentimes it's so subtle, right? People don't know, and they might take it for granted. They might not know it's so bad.
Yeah, so I wonder when it comes to, because that's what I was going to say next about, having some kind of sensors or some kind of equipment to be able to let us know when, kind of like when the government tells you, hey, today is a code red day, if you're between these ages, you should stay inside or something like that. If the things that exist and the different sensors or whatever, the different pieces of equipment to put in your house, what are we checking? I mean, like oxygen levels, carbon dioxide, like what are the different levels that should be checked to let us know, hey, this is unsafe and we need to do this, or this?
Yeah, I would say there's a few categories. One are what I would call pollutants. So pollutants could be particles. It could be, for example, California has wildfires, and in some places there's smog, call it, from traffic or industrial processes. You can measure that using sensors that measure particles. PM 2.5 is small particles, for example. There's also pollutants that are gaseous, like you mentioned candles. Those that, broadly speaking, what we call organic molecules. It could be perfume, but it could also be something really bad, like toluene, benzene, formaldehyde that can give you cancer. And then I would say there's ventilation. So a proxy for like how good is your dilution of the air, and you're not just breathing your own breath all the whole time. You can measure CO2. And I would say the last thing is things around comfort. Temperature, humidity, all the basic stuff that might even be in your thermostat, right? The good thing about where the industry around monitoring is headed to is, for example, we have, and I don't know if your audience can see, these devices, but this is the Halo. This is the WYND Halo. These are in 50,000 homes. It measures all those things. And our vision is, again, it's not just about spitting out a bunch of data. It's about, you get the data, and then what do you do with it? How can you create change, right? How can you catalyze improvement, right? We would love for this to be in the hands of the HVAC audience so that they could make really good recommendations, that they could get more business, which is all in the best interests of the customer because maybe they didn't know they had a problem. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of, where our story hopefully is building toward. And I want to say one other thing, and we published this maybe 3 months ago. So we basically did a study in Las Vegas in these hotels. And everyone knows, the hotels, not exactly the paragon of healthy spaces. But it turned out that the difference between the healthiest hotel and the unhealthiest hotel was 80 times in terms of the concentration of these bad pollutants. So the best one, there's actually 3 of them, ARIA, Park MGM, and the WYND. Staying in there is better than breathing outside air, right? And the unhealthiest hotel, which we did not name publicly, it's 80 times worse. and it's so bad that it's basically breeding outdoor pollution in India, in New Delhi, India, and it's 4 times worse than the average pollution in New Delhi, India.
Oh man.
Obviously, that has massive health ramifications, but if you're talking about COVID and disease spread, like staying there, you're gonna get sick. Staying at the other place, you're gonna have a much lower likelihood. And this is, I think, the power of data, because if you can show to that homeowner, that light commercial, restaurant owner, the school, et cetera, that look, you got a ways to go to improve, that data can catalyze business. Right? If you can tell them this is why it's bad, let me give you an ERV, it'll improve health this way, or install, thicker filters, maybe some of those other technologies that you mentioned. It's a way to basically conduct business, because you can actually tell them, facts, right? And then you can prove afterwards it works, right?
Well, exactly, and that's what I love about that is the fact that you have a way to be able to get some information, to be able to test it and say, okay, this is what it's saying, this is what we need to do to correct it. The same way that if we go in and somebody says, oh, my house isn't cooling, this bedroom's not good, this one's not good, we're gonna oh, well, we can add this, and this, and we can increase airflow. We give them, okay, this is your problem, this is how we're gonna fix it. And now we can start having that same kind of mindset when it comes to IAQ, because I know that there's products out there that, people plug in, like I was telling you, that test it. And I used one a few years back that was expensive that somebody sent me, and I'll be honest, Ray, it was a hunk of shit. I thought it was just a sales device, because it would give you a code, a color. And obviously, like, green was okay, yellow was kind of like that. The thing would be red every time. I never saw it go off of red. So I don't know if I got a dud or what, but I felt like it would just... I love the concept. I just didn't like that particular product. But I would love to be able to offer that to my customers when we go in, because we try to be thorough and do everything when it comes to our service. And I want to do the same thing when it comes to IAQ, because I really think that is going to be the wave of the future. Something like COVID, it took us all by storm. Nobody knew it was coming. Nobody knew it was going to be as bad as it was, and it sucked, and it's still not 100% gone. So we got to start thinking about this hopefully there's not a next time, but sadly there's going to be a next time. That's just the way the world is, a way that we can handle it and things that we can do to prepare ourselves with things like this. So what are some of the products? I know that you guys make some things that are cool, like you just said. Like, what are some of the products that you guys are offering to the marketplace to try to, fill these gaps?
We really think about how to complete the loop, right? So it starts with monitors. We have this product called the WYND Halo that I just showed. It looks like a thermostat, but it's chock full of sensors and data. But it can't just be about spitting out data, because most people don't even know that red green thing. And if I talk to you about TVOC, people might not know exactly what is good or bad, and oftentimes it's like it blips up and it blips down, right? Like, what are you going to do with that, right? Our job is to turn that into useful recommendations, alerts, and automation that can be digestible. And as part of that, we want to get into the helping them with remediation, right? Because ultimately, if you have a problem, like, don't tell me as a customer that I just have a problem. Tell me how I can fix it.
Yeah.
Right. And that, and with air, you can't just write software to fix it. There's so much of these like SaaS solutions out there. You got to have HVAC. You got to have, in many cases, services come in for installation, for materials. And thankfully, in every city, every town, there are people who are willing to serve, right? And there are companies that have products that are willing to, put in ERVs and air purifiers and better MERV filters or replace a whole HVAC system, right? So I guess my point is, we start with the monitoring and the data, turn it into analytics, and then we recommend the right kind of remediation solutions depending on what we find. Right. We do make air purifiers. We make standing air purifiers, but that alone, as you mentioned, is not going to solve everything. Right. You got to have the whole system that runs the whole building or the whole house work in tandem as well. Right. And so we integrate with those folks. And then you mentioned, Angie's List and Home Advisor. They're owned by the same company. Great platform. But that still requires the customer to say, I have a problem. Let me go and Google search something, and maybe then I get access to the pro, right? What we envision is in the future, that conversation happens proactively because maybe the pro already has that relationship, right? They know your house might need additional equipment and services. One example is we have customers in very humid places, right? They might be in Charleston, South Carolina, and the humidity is like 85%. That's just bad for your health normally, but also encourages mold growth, right? Well, there's like whole home dehumidifier units out there. If you can pinpoint like this customer has this problem, that's a proactive outreach, right? Hey, I noticed. I'm trying to be helpful now. I'm not just trying to shove products down your throat. Like I'm trying to be helpful to make you healthier, right? Here's what I do, and let me do a consultative sales approach, right? To help you with your specific problem. That I think is what we're trying to promote in the future, and I think it's everybody wins in that case.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's so funny you said that, because that's what I was just thinking about, humidity, that a lot of people don't realize that in that IAQ, we just think about filtration and UV lights, but humidity is huge because like you said, when you have humidity issues, you're having, well, yes, the customer's uncomfortable because now, the latent cooling is horrible, but you have those things where things are growing as it starts to get humid in different places. So humidity has got to be something that we worry about, and we also tie back into IAQ. It all kind of circles around. So that's pretty wild. So when you guys say this with something like, so let's just say your WYND Halo right there. I have that inside my home, and is that going to tell like the homeowner or something for like the technician, hey, like you said, it's going to be more digestible. So how does that make it more digestible for us? Like, how does it give me that information so that I understand?
Yeah, we have two versions of our monitor. One is for the end user to purchase and use themselves. So it would be the homeowner. We have a lot of customers who they want to know and try to do the right things to keep them and their families healthy, or their commercial space, right? We have another version that is more used for, call it the pro and the technician. It's a fairly low cost device. It's based on the same technology, and it could be just left at the person's house as a gift. Right. And in that case, the data is sent to the technician. We don't invade privacy. There's no like cameras or microphones or things like that. It's just capturing the environmental variables, again, to be helpful. Right. And we want to turn that into business. We want to turn that into opportunities to help them, have a healthier space for their families or their customers or their employees. Right. So and then you mentioned, how do we tell that story? Part of that is just sharing the data, but again, like a lot of this data, it blips up, it blips down. We turned it into basically summaries that you can, as a person, just kind of understand, right? Like relate to. It's like, for instance, your house is. We don't just say it's dusty to the point of 5 micrograms per cubic meter. That doesn't mean much to most people. We might say that it's in the bottom 10% of like spaces in this area because you have a lot of particles in this area, and what you need to do is ventilate, and what you need to do is filter. Those things reliably take care of that problem. Clearly, your building isn't doing enough, right? So maybe we can come in and take a look. Maybe you need to change your filter. Maybe you need a bigger capacity HVAC. Maybe you need to start ventilating or using the fan more, or just like, hey, open your windows more often, right? If it's another issue like mold, our sensors actually can detect, mold spores, for instance. Then you cannot just ventilate and filter that out because it's still going to be there. You need to call a person to come in and check it out and remediate the problem, beneath the wall or wherever it is, right? So we want to tell the right stories, basically, not just report a bunch of raw data.
Well, something like that is good because I know in our field, you don't ever say the M word. You don't ever say mold, because we don't know. I mean, and there's a lot of molds that aren't bad. we don't know if this is going to kill somebody. So I know we always say it's organic growth. And we used to always have these back in the day, like at the last company I was involved with, we would have these tests that we could do something, we'd take it and we'd send it away for the customer. Like, hey, if you want, we can get it tested. And then the experts will tell us, hey, is this good or bad? I would say in all those years, I sent away probably 65 tests, and not one of them ever came back as being something bad. Obviously, we still don't want it there. We need to clean it and get rid of it, but not one ever came back as like, oh, this is black mold and it's going to kill your whole family. So it's pretty crazy how that works. So when I know some guys, somebody in here, one of a good listener and viewer of the podcast, Jason Johnson, said when it comes to in the commercial spaces, indoor air quality is bringing in fresh air. So I know that we've talked a lot about, the residential side. In your mind, what is the difference between a residential home and a commercial atmosphere besides just being a bigger space and more people?
Yeah. So I can tell you, we work with people who own the building, called the owner side, right? They might not be in the building. They might be sitting in New York or Singapore or wherever, right? And we work with the people who occupy the building, right? They're the tenants, and from the customer's perspective, let's just start with tenants. The importance of air quality is so clear to them, because what's happening in the commercial space is you're no longer in a bubble, right? In your house, like, your family, you're, even if they're sick, you trust them, you're going to live with them. In a commercial space, whether that's an office, a restaurant, a healthcare facility, a hotel, a school, it's a bunch of strangers, right? I mean, maybe not strangers, but you don't like know everything that they did last weekend or something. Yeah. And it's all the more important to keep that space healthy, so there's less disease transmission. It's all the more important to promote peace of mind for those people, and for call it the office leadership. And also, by the way, having healthy indoor air quality for your employees in that office environment, let's just say it's office, can make them more productive. So they'll be, more able to help your business, right? And so I think on the occupier side, the whole COVID experience and now the return to those spaces, I think has really been a driver for us of selling indoor air quality. And the other thing that's interesting is, and I we have customers from Instacart to, big service companies that do consulting and finance and tech, to even government. We don't sell them, equipment. We don't sell them a purifier or a monitor. We sell them we basically sell them air quality as a service. They pay us by the square foot. And it's a really interesting business model, right? Because we basically sell managed air, right? It's recurring. Right. And I think for the commercial side, that actually is something they're used to. They pay a lot of recurring stuff. Rent, for example, is recurring. A lot of their software and other infrastructure that they depend on for their everyday business is about just, a service. So this is just the same. It's a service. So we've been having a lot of success there. On the owner side for commercial, I think the pitch has got to be something that's totally tied with their revenue or their operating expenses. Right. It can't just be, we'll help you guys be healthier, because they're not even in the building most of the time. Yeah. Right. These owners. Right. And I'll make this short because I know I've had a long-winded answer to your question. But,
you're fine.
On the revenue side, basically the pitch to owners is like, we can differentiate your building. Right. You basically make money off of the real estate, and across the street, there's another guy that does the same thing. You're competing with them. Right. We'll help you differentiate your space by saying it's much healthier. Right. Just like in that Las Vegas building. Right. The Arias and the Park MGMs, based on our studies, have been making more money. Right. We can do the same thing. On the operating expense side, I think those of you in your audience who service the commercial side know this. A lot of these commercial building owners, they essentially cranked the ventilation and added things like thicker filters, and they just did everything to max. It's like, basically, we're going to try to keep people healthy. We're going to turn all the systems up on high. Well, that expends a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Right. At a time when these spaces are still pretty empty, right? The occupancy is nowhere near 2019 levels in a lot of these environments. And so it's very wasteful. It's an extra cost. It's also, whether or not people, care or think climate change is real, a lot of the investors of these ownership companies, they are demanding that these guys also lower their carbon, footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's 40 to 50% of your energy spend is on air and you're overdoing it, you're going to look bad and you're not going to get investment dollars, right? So air, absolutely, also on the owner side, just in a slightly different way, is something that is important to them and something that I think this industry can help them with.
That's pretty wild. So like your products and stuff like that, is this something people can just like go to your website and buy? Or does it have to be like a consultation? There's authorized people because they need to know what to buy, or how does it work with the products that you guys offer?
For the residential side, just call it consumers. Like we sell directly to them on our website. It's HelloWYND, HelloWYND.com. We have a B2B side where we're selling to schools, hotels, office buildings, etc. That's more of a consultative thing because it's sometimes a little more customized. The pricing is also a little bit different. We don't expect people to just whip out their credit card and buy something in that case. So that's a little bit more of a managed sale.
So is there something where like us as the technicians out there can become, that would be like authorized dealers of your products and stuff like that? Like that's something that can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We work with the industry already today, and would love to do more of that. Love to explore that with your whole community.
Yeah, well, that's something we can definitely do, because one thing, like I told you, that I have always done is I will always test products on my family in my house before I offer them to my customers, because I want to know. I want to know if it works. I want to know about it. That's how I fell in with inverter technology at my last house. I was selling these inverter systems, these high-end air conditioning and heat pump systems to these customers, and I put one in my house, and then my sales went through the roof because I'm like, I got one of these things. I love it. Like, it's amazing. I've never been that comfortable in my life, and now it's the same way when it comes with the IAQ. And like I said, I ventured off in different things, like I said, with that one probiotic thing that I thought was a very good idea, but it just, the big wigs weren't thinking about it. They were worried about money. They weren't worried about actual IAQ and helping people. And I hate to say it that way, but that's pretty much what it came down to. They were worried about volume, moving units, and making money, not what it was actually doing for the customer. So that was the problem that we ran into, which stinks, because I think that they did have a good thing going there.
Yeah. I think the difference is just COVID changed people's awareness, right? Prior to COVID, people thought, my air is not that bad. Maybe I had some allergies seasonally, right? But now it's, everybody has to, has been affected, over the last 2 to 3 years by this issue, which is now primarily related to air, right? And so now you can start a conversation about it. 3 years ago, when we talked about our indoor air quality to the office manager of a major tech company or a services firm, it was just kind of not seeming like their priority. Now it's essential to their return to office.
Yeah.
Right. Or to return to travel. Right. I think we're in a time when, something that always has been important is now, on top of people's minds. And it's, I think it really is a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, well, I told you, if I can test out anything, let me know. I'll be a guinea pig. I'll test whatever. And I know when I did the other things, I got a couple of them, and obviously I sent it to people that I trust, that actually know what they're talking about. But we would send different things back, and then be like, hey, well, what'd this do for you? How did this work? And, we just kind of have like these little discussions between ourselves, like a Zoom call. Like, some people would be like, I think this thing's bogus. It's a piece of shit. Other people would be like, I loved it. It was great. I noticed this in the month that I used it, or whatever it was. So, it's definitely really, really, really cool. So in the residential side, how many total is that the only? So the WYND Halo, is that the only residential product?
We sell air purifiers. We sell the WYND Halo. We have software that manages them. Those are our primary products. So one is on the monitoring side, the other one's on the purification side. We also have smaller purifiers they could bring with them as they travel, and a small sensor that they can bring with them as well. So those are probably our main kind of it's called hardware products on that side. But we also have a version of that monitor for the technicians as well.
That's pretty wild. I know we're almost at an hour, but I know there's so many things to talk about. Is there anything that we, because we have a little time left. If you have some time, is there anything that we didn't cover that you think that you would like to make sure that we get into the show? That maybe I've been a horrible host and didn't guide you in a good direction. Is there anything that we missed that you would like to get out there?
No, you've been great, Gil. I think we covered a lot of different bases. I've been also checking out the comments. I'd love to engage with the community. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Gil to get to me or to me directly as well. I'm pretty accessible. My email is just ray@HelloWYND.com, just our website. Would love to send you a few samples of our products, Gil. Love to get your feedback on them as well. Yeah. And see how we can work with the community. Yeah, here I'm gonna put your I think I got a HelloWYND.com. So you said ray@HelloWYND.com? Mm-hmm. Yep.
There you go, guys. I just put it in the chat so that way if you guys want to get in touch with Ray, there's his information, and we can do that. And yeah, man, I know you got to keep these shows. You can't go too much past an hour because people start listening to them and they wreck their trucks on the audio version, falling asleep while they're driving and stuff. But I want to thank you for coming on, man. And I would be more than happy to test some of this stuff. And then maybe once I test it, we can come back on and kind of talk about some of the results I got and talk about it even more. Because like I said, I am very fascinated by the indoor air quality, just everything about it, and how to keep trying to make it better because of my family's health conditions and my children and things like that I want to keep trying to stay on that cutting edge of doing things. I have ERVs in my home. I'm bringing in fresh air. I'm taking the stale air out. I'm cleaning it. I have proper filtration. Like, I'm trying to do everything, but maybe there's always something else that you can do. I want to try to be one of those people that practice what I preach. I don't want to go to a customer and say, oh, you should be doing ABC, and I don't do it myself.
Yeah. Well, you're on the cutting edge, and that's great to see. And we'd love to have you test out our products as well and see what you think. We always have, we have a roadmap, and we're trying to, add more things. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on it, and also the community's thoughts too.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. Did anybody in the chat, before we start to close this out, did any of you have any questions for Ray? Anything that you would like me to ask him before we start to close this show out? If you do, if you could please put it in all caps for me. That way it makes it noticeable. Here, there's one up here. Would be cool if sensors would be incorporated with your thermostat and notify the users of an issue.
So I could say, without revealing some of our partners, that's already happening.
Nice.
It makes total sense, right? The thermostat's something that they already need on the wall. Even your smoke alarm is something that, obviously every home and building has one. We're embedding the science and the technology inside of those.
Sweet. Jason, what Ray and WYND are selling is not a UV light. So they sell different kind of air purifiers, but their WYND Halo is a device that takes all the different readings. I guess I'll let you explain it. Yeah, he's asking what it takes.
So at a high level, our core technology is trying to make sense of what's in the air and be able to interpret that for people to make changes in their homes and buildings, right? Through recommendations, alerts, automation, et cetera, right? But then obviously we got to close the loop. And so we make air purifiers to do that, and also work in conjunction with HVAC to clean up any issues.
Yeah, here we got I guess he's talking about like in Vegas. Sam is saying, about the hotels, how can OT, I don't know if it means outside, how can it be better than outside with all of the smoking that's done inside of casinos?
Yeah. So I can answer that. So there's always particles everywhere, even outside, even in Las Vegas, which is not a very polluted city. There's traffic, there's other sources of particles. Inside of the hotel, for the most part, if you look at all the 28 different hotels we monitored, they're very polluted, right? And it's probably because of smoking on top of maybe other pollutants, right?
That's why I love Vegas.
Top three,
because I'm a smoker and I can smoke inside. You haven't been able to smoke inside in Maryland in forever, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean Vegas, except for Park MGM. I think Park MGM is the only hotel that's a major hotel that outlaws smoking. Everywhere else you can, but taking care of the air, ventilating and filtering it, it's not rocket science, but it works. Like the top three hotels, they just do a good job of it. Maybe they're okay with the extra expenditure of energy and building it, putting in the best systems. Whereas other places, maybe they don't know that what they're doing doesn't really work. But in the past, and this is kind of going back to the whole theme, right? They didn't need, nobody knew the difference, right? The places that were doing a really good job, that brought in the best equipment and the best services, they never got rewarded for anything. And the places that didn't do so well, they, could just skate by, right? And I think what we want to promote is to help people understand the air so that they can improve it. That brings business to the whole HVAC community, but also helps the end user be healthier and help them potentially get more business by showing that they're healthy, right? So, and that's what I'm saying. Everybody wins. Yeah. Right.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, somebody, Jason said HEPA filtering, ? Well, yeah, I know since COVID, HEPA filters have been, I know a lot of commercial places have been demanding them. Like, hey, we want this new unit, but we want HEPA filters or we want this. Because I know, they were almost hard to get, especially like the custom things where you couldn't even buy them. They were taking forever because so many people were trying to request those.
They work. They work in capturing particles because the particles just basically get stuck by this brick wall of filter, right? It's a bunch of polypropylene fibers that can capture down to 0.1 microns, which is the size of the virus itself. Obviously, like you said before, you can't just depend on one thing to fix everything, right? You got to do ventilation, you got to have the MERV, maybe add in something else in the duct, right? But HEPA filters can be very helpful as well as a complementary solution.
Yeah, I've seen some places where, we tell residential customers, don't over filter. You can filter too much if you have one at your unit, one at your return grill. And, but I remember I worked in this industrial plant, but that's exactly what they did. They were doing something with their air where the velocity of the air was outrageous. So it was almost like an industrial high velocity system to a point. But they filtered it 3 times and then they were doing I want to say 7, 8. Well, I'm trying to think of how many air exchanges, but they were doing a bunch, the way they were doing it. And, this place was because they were the different things that they were doing with different chemicals and different things they were doing in there. But it was, yes, Jason, it was like a big boy Unico system. It's actually pretty sweet. It's been a few years since I've seen it, but it was pretty awesome how they were doing it. And I guess you ever walked in somewhere and you breathe in and it just you can almost smell the cleanliness of the air, I guess, in a way. I guess you really can't, but it felt that way when you would walk into a place like this.
Yeah. I mean, HEPA filter, that technology was developed in the 1940s, right, for the nuclear project, when there were concerns about radiation particles and all that, right? So it works, and it's been proven for many, many, many decades. I do think, and this is maybe just my personal opinion, you don't want to have it be too, sterile, right? If you open the window and there's the trees and the grass that comes in, obviously some people are sensitive to pollen, but that's not necessarily bad for you. That's just nature, right? And that's okay. You don't have to get rid of every single living thing in your air, right?
No, that's true. This is a good one before we start to end this, Ray, is Kraus in here says, how long does the Halo need to be in the space before it actually starts getting a proper data to be able to say, this is what's going on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say at least 24 hours, just so you can get like a whole cycle of a day, but better to leave there for 7 days so you can see a whole week, because there are changes, right? People go to work, they come back, there's differences between a Monday and a Saturday. So getting to at least get like 7 days would probably be enough to get you to see a pattern.
So is that something, how you said there's ones you go right to the consumer and ones for like more like the commercial side, something that us as an HVAC contractor could be like, hey, I can leave this in your home for 7 days. After the 7 days, then I can come and I can build you a custom package that's going to take care of, all the issues in your home.
Yep. Yeah. So that's one way to do it. You can say, I'll come back in some days. We can even help generate a report that you can go to them with. But even better, just leave it there. Like I am the person that is your helpful neighborhood resource. I will be looking out for you and in a helpful way, not like spying on you, obviously, right? but if there's any issues, like who's helping you and who can provide you with the best service and the most relevant service.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Natural ozone is actually good for you. Yeah, but isn't not too much of it? Because I know they say some of these devices that produce ozone, that the ozone production can be worse for you than the actual what the product's trying to do.
You don't want to breathe pure ozone. It actually destroys your lungs. It's bad. It's very reactive. Now it could be used to clean a space. They can get rid of odors and all that stuff. In fact, in hotels, we work with Marriott, for example, like they use ozone generators to clean the cigarette smoke after somebody smokes in a hotel room. It's one of the only ways to do it because you can't really filter that out. That's just in the, drapes and all that stuff, right? So it works, but you don't want to be there when they're generating it.
This is another man, Kraus, and you seem smart, like a smart guy today, man. Just kidding. He said, how many units would be best? Like 1-to-1 room ratio directly in the airstream or just in a general space? So like,
I would say, yeah, go ahead.
No, you already started. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say one per HVAC zone. Air does generally flow throughout a space. If they're more paranoid, they just want to monitor, like, I don't know, maybe this bedroom, the master bedroom or the baby's room, or maybe they have a larger house and there's like 2 HVAC zones. That might be something you might want a couple more units. But we typically say just 1 per HVAC zone, and then put it in a place where, air is going to be flowing, right? Don't put it into a closet, for example.
Yeah, no, I'm going to put one on both sides of the bed because my wife's dirtier than me, so I'm gonna like it. It's all your fault. You're giving off all the pollutants.
You could measure that.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, Ray. Well, I won't keep you guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for coming to ask the questions. Ray, I really appreciate you, man. This has been an awesome topic. I love talking about IAQ. And like I said, we'll work this out about testing some products and then maybe get you back on and talk about some of the findings. And, then I can get firsthand opinion, or firsthand accounts of like what it did and how it worked, and be like, this is what happened and this is what it told me and this is what I did to fix it, or whatever it is, or this is how the stuff in my house is really working, or whatever it would be. So that would definitely be really, really, really awesome. So,
I'd be thrilled to do that as a next step. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I love this interaction with the audience here. You guys asked really awesome questions, and hopefully what I talked about was somewhat relevant.
Yeah, it definitely was, man. So thank you so much for coming on, Ray. I'm going to go ahead and close this thing out real fast, and we'll get ready to rock and roll, but we'll definitely stay in touch. All right?
Sounds good.
Yep. All right, buddy.
Thanks, Gil.
Thank you. All righty, guys. I thought that was fun, man. I got his logo in the middle of my screen. There we go. I love that conversation, man. I think that was awesome. The information that Ray was giving and what they're doing. It's not just somebody else, just selling another UV light saying, oh, this is going to fix your problem. It's actually giving us readings and telling what's going on in the space, and then we can know how to fix it. So maybe some people don't need us to throw everything in the kitchen sink at them. So I love that we're trying to be thorough and give them the data the same way we're talking about how we should be doing the same thing with our service calls and taking the blinders off and looking at everything. So we can start doing that when it comes to IAQ. So I thought this was amazing. I want to thank Ray again for coming on. It was an awesome conversation. Thank all of you in the chat for the great questions that you guys were asking. I mean, you guys were really on fire tonight. I appreciate you guys and that communication with the guests. I really love when that happens. Thank you to my moderators for, getting all the questions to me to make sure that I can ask them. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Remember, I want to make sure I say this, guys. No shows next week. I will be on vacation. I need it. My brain is turning to mush, so I will be gone next week. There will be an audio podcast out Monday, but no live shows next week. I will start the following week, and I have some good ones coming up, some really good ones coming up. So make sure that you stay tuned and you follow me on all of the social media sites, which really, I guess YouTube's not really social media, but YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure you follow that. And to all the winners, with all the stuff with getting ready for vacation, I have everything sitting right here with your names taped to it. So when I go to work, all that stuff will be shipped out because I want to make sure I get all that gone before I leave. And for all the prizes coming from me. So all that stuff will be shipped out before I leave. So guys, let me close this out, not get long-winded. Pixar, it didn't happen. You shut your mouth, Kraus. Be safe out there, man. We all got somebody to make it home to. We live in a crazy world right now, okay? Be safe, all right? There's a bunch of nut jobs. Make sure that it's your responsibility to make sure that you make it home to your loved ones and to your family, all right? Do the little things. Set yourself apart from the next guy. Keep trying to be better. Constantly try to better yourself. There are so many resources out there that I always say this. You cannot say that you don't know. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. Between books, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever it is, the interweb, there's always ways to get answers to anything that you want to do. Keep constantly getting better. Keep raising the bar. In the words of Ben Poole, master your craft. Keep raising the bar for you and everybody around you. All right? Guys, you know that I am always here to help you in any way possible. All you got to do is reach out to me. You can email me, hvacuncensored@gmail.com. You can direct message me on any of those social media platforms. But, thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for always supporting me, for always being here on Wednesdays and the special episodes. If you guys would also download the audio podcast on wherever you get your podcast from, thank you, guys, man. I really, really appreciate you. And I'll see you when I get back from vacation. Till the next time, I'll talk to you mofos later. All right? Peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored Podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.